A young doctor gently changed the bandages of a wealthy woman in a coma when something incredible happened. She woke up, and what followed was nothing short of a miracle. Love found them. The quiet hum of medical machines filled the ICU at St. Augustine's Hospital. Their steady beeping was the only sign of life in the cold, sterile room. Olivia Guyon lay still, her dark hair stark against the clean white sheets. For 6 months, the tech heiress had been trapped in a coma, the reason for her crash still a mystery, hanging like a cloud over the staff. Nurses moved around her with practiced calm, except for Dr. Aiden Lee. He stood by her side, jaw tight. His white coat hung over a rumpled shirt, proof of too many sleepless nights. His tired eyes landed on the bandages covering Olivia's chest, yellowed and stiff with time. He hovered over them, a heavy silence crackling in the air. "Doctor! Lee! Stop!" Margaret, the head nurse, appeared beside him, her voice firm. "You can't just change her bandages. There's a process." Aiden turned, eyes burning. "Protocol?" His voice was soft, but full of fight. "She's been lying here for 6 months. These are too tight. They're making it hard for her to breathe. I'm not worried about protocol. I'm worried about saving her." Margaret's lips tightened. "She's Olivia Guyon, billionaire, public figure. If something goes wrong, her family—" "Her family isn't here," Aiden interrupted, his voice rising. "I am. I'm her doctor. I won't let this go on." Before she could stop him, he grabbed a sterile pair of scissors and began cutting through the old bandages. As the layers came off, red marks lined Olivia's pale skin. Aiden's breath caught. She'd been struggling, hidden under hospital rules. Margaret let out a shaky sigh. "You're risking your job." "Then let them fire me," Aiden muttered. His hands moved carefully, placing clean, soft bandages that allowed her chest to rise and fall with ease. His fingertips brushed her skin, just for a second, a quiet moment of warmth in the still room. The air was thick with tension. Margaret said nothing, only watching. Aiden stepped back, wiping his hands. His eyes stayed on Olivia's face. Then, the monitor beeped. Once, then again. Quicker, stronger. Aiden froze. Margaret gasped, her clipboard slipping from her fingers. The numbers rose. 60, 65, 70. Heart pounding, Aiden leaned in. A soft flutter moved through Olivia's chest. Her lips parted just slightly. "Life." His voice trembled. "What the hell?" For the first time in 6 months, Olivia Guyon was changing, and Aiden had broken the silence that held her prisoner. That night, the ICU glowed dimly. Machines buzzed like restless spirits. Aiden sat in the corner, hunched over a tablet. Shadows carved deep lines into his face. Olivia's heart monitor had calmed since the spike, but he couldn't forget it. Her pulse had surged, as if she'd felt him. It didn't make sense. He swiped through her chart. 6 months of scans, notes, dead ends. Olivia Guyon, 32. Crashed her Mercedes on a rainy highway. No witnesses, just the wreck, and silence. CT scans showed a mild concussion, small bruises, no serious injuries. Yet she never woke. One neurologist's note read, "Persistent vegetative state. Cause unclear." Unclear? That wasn't good enough for Aiden. Rubbing his eyes, he replayed that moment again, changing the bandages, letting her breathe. Could that have triggered it? Number something deeper was wrong. His gut tightened. What if her coma wasn't natural? What if someone wanted her this way? He paced. His sneakers squeaked against the tile. Olivia stayed still, the ventilator softly hissing beside her. Her face, calm and sharp, held power. She had ruled both Wall Street and Silicon Valley. That kind of success earned enemies, family, competitors, people who wanted her empire. Could someone have done this to her? Aiden's heart raced. A drug? Something quiet and sneaky? Hospitals had secrets, especially for the rich. If this was true, he couldn't trust anyone. He left the room, stepping into the dark hallway. The supply closet door creaked open. Shelves glinted with bottles, morphine, saline. Everything looked normal. Until, tucked behind a pack of gauze, he saw it. An unmarked vial, half full, clear liquid, no label. His breath caught. This wasn't standard. He pocketed it, heart hammering, and hurried back to his office. Then he called Jake, a friend in the lab. "Aiden, it's 2 a.m., Jake groaned. "Just analyze this for me." "Quietly," Aiden whispered. Jake grumbled but agreed. By morning, they met at a dingy coffee shop. Aiden handed over the vial. Jake squinted. "No label. Where'd this come from?" "Just test it. Fast." 2 days passed. Then Jake called. Aiden sat in the hospital cafeteria, coffee cold in his hand. "Low-dose anesthetic," Jake said. "Keep someone under without knocking them out." Aiden's stomach turned. "Thanks," he whispered, ending the call. A sedative, perfect for quiet sabotage. Someone, maybe family, maybe a rival, had done this. He needed more proof, but this was the first step. That night, under the blue glow of ICU lights, Olivia still hadn't moved. Her face was hauntingly peaceful. Aiden sat beside her. The vial weighed heavy in his pocket. He leaned close, voice low but strong. "I'll find the truth, whether you can hear me or not." His words shook with determination. He didn't know who, he didn't know why, but he knew one thing. He was going to fight for her. The monitor beeped. Even as things calmed, that earlier spike in her heart rate echoed in Aiden's mind like a silent alarm. Outside, heavy rain slammed against the hospital windows, a constant roar drowning out the usual ICU sounds. Lightning sliced through the blinds, casting sharp shadows across the room where Aiden sat, clipboard in hand. It was well past midnight. The storm outside twisted Manhattan into chaos. But inside St. Augustine's, he remained steady. He had been on duty for 16 hours. Exhaustion tugged at him, but he couldn't rest. Not while Olivia Guyan lay there. Her chart lay open in front of him, full of numbers and scribbled notes, but his eyes kept drifting to her still body. Pale skin, dark hair spread across the pillow. The ventilator quietly filling her lungs. 6 months of silence. Aiden stood, stretching. He picked up his stethoscope for a routine vitals check, same as always. Crossing the room, he pressed the cold instrument to her chest. Pulse, 62. Oxygen, stable. Everything was normal. He gently adjusted her blanket. Then, a flash of lightning lit up her face. Her eyelids fluttered. Aiden froze, holding his breath. A soft movement. Was it his imagination? He leaned in, waiting. Nothing. "Wishful thinking," he muttered. But as he straightened, her lashes parted. Dark eyes blinked up at him, clouded but alive. His heart slammed in his chest. The stethoscope dropped from his hands. "Olivia," he whispered, her gaze locked onto his, uncertain, searching. Hands trembling, he grabbed his penlight. He flicked it across her pupils. They tightened, slowly, but definitely. He tapped her knee. It moved. She was awake. After 6 months. Holy... He stopped himself, voice shaking. He backed away, then came closer again. Her eyes followed his movements. There was fear in them, and relief, but something deeper, too. It rocked him. "This is a miracle," he half laughed, disbelief mixing with awe. Was it the bandages? The sedative? Had something broken through? Or had she simply chosen to return? Either way, she was back. Then a wave of dread hit him. If someone had been drugging her, they might find out she'd woken up. His jaw tightened. He couldn't tell Margaret. Not yet. He had to keep her safe. He pulled a chair close, making eye contact. "Hey," he said gently, steadying his voice. "You're safe. I'm Aiden, doctor." Lee. A pause. One blink. "Yes." He smiled faintly. "Don't move too much, okay? You've been asleep for a long time." Another blink. Slow, focused. He dabbed her lips with a swab. Her eyes softened, gratitude in their depths. He adjusted her pillows, hands firm despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "I've been here," he said quietly, "watching over you. I've got stories." He began to talk about spilled coffee, a stray dog near the hospital, little things to ground her. Her eyes stayed on him, listening. He taught her signals. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no, 2 blinks for pain, 1 for tired. They built a delicate rhythm, slow but sure. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, he kept talking. He told her about med school, about a stubborn classmate, about a stitch he messed up once. Then, her lips twitched, just slightly, a tiny smile. He stopped. She understood. He gently rested his fingers over hers. "You're strong," he said, voice low. "We'll get through this." Her fingers curled, just a little, around his. Fragile, but fierce. His breath caught, his throat tightened. He stayed there, holding her hand. The rain pounded. The world shifted. She was awake, and so was he. The hospital was buzzing. Midday chaos filled the halls, trays clattering, phones ringing, voices colliding in a rush of urgency. But Aiden barely noticed. His focus was sharp as he strode toward the administrative wing, a manila folder tucked under his arm. The last week had been a blur, late nights, quiet digging, and scattered clues coming together. Olivia's awakening had lit a fire in him, and every thread he pulled led to the same name, Daniel Guyan. Olivia's younger brother, smooth, polished, late 20s, always in designer suits and wearing a picture-perfect smile. As her only sibling, Daniel had stepped into the spotlight after her accident, taking charge of her vast tech company like he was born to do it. But the more Aiden uncovered, the darker it got. Daniel had been at the hospital, often, too often, visiting at strange hours, always alone. And then there was the vial, the sedative. It wasn't hard to piece it together. Daniel had the motive, the resources, and a clear reason to keep his sister silent. The real breakthrough came that morning. Aiden had charmed a security guard into letting him watch old ICU footage. It was grainy, but clear enough. There was Daniel walking down a dim hallway, handing a small vial to a nurse, Jenny, nervous, quiet, assigned to Olivia's case. Aiden's pulse had surged as he watched Daniel pat her on the shoulder, like sealing a deal. A few hours later, Aiden had found Jenny in the break room, recorder hidden in his coat pocket. "I didn't want to," she stammered, eyes darting. "He said it was just to help her rest, that she'd wake up soon." Her voice broke. "Then he gave me $5,000 to stay quiet. I didn't know it would go on this long." Her confession, paired with the footage, was everything. Aiden printed screenshots from the video, clearly time-stamped, and stuffed them into the folder now burning against his ribs. Daniel wasn't just careless. He was dangerous. He had drugged his own sister to take everything she'd built. Aiden's hands curled into fists as he neared the executive lounge. Daniel was in there, meeting with the hospital board. This ended now. Aiden shoved the glass doors open. The room fell silent. Heads turned. Daniel sat at the end of the glossy table, suit perfect, coffee in hand. He looked up. His smirk flickered, just for a moment, as Aiden stormed in. "Doctor, Lee," Daniel said. Daniel drawled, setting his cup down. "To what do I owe the interruption?" Aiden slammed the folder onto the table. Papers spilled across the polished surface, stills from the surveillance footage, a printed transcript of Jenny's confession. "This," he said, voice low and burning with fury. "You've been poisoning her, Daniel, keeping her in that coma so you could play king." The room exploded in murmurs. Suits shifted in their chairs, uncomfortable. Daniel's eyes narrowed, but his smile remained, sharp and glinting. That's a bold accusation, Doctor. Lee, got proof? Or are you just fishing for attention? Aiden tapped the photos, finger pressing into Daniel's grainy image. Security footage. You, handing off the vial. And your nurse? She talked. $5,000 to drug Olivia. Keep her silent. Ring any bells? Daniel leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, still composed. Creative storytelling, he said coolly. But you're out of your depth. One call to the board and your career's ash. You're nothing here. Aiden stepped forward, voice dark and unwavering. Try it. I've got copies of everything. Tapes, files, witnesses. You're done. I'll protect her no matter what you throw at me. Daniel's smirk vanished. His face hardened. He stood, towering over Aiden, and hissed, You're a dead man walking, Lee. She's my sister. My business. You think you can touch me? I already have. Aiden snapped back, unflinching. The cops get this next if you don't back off. Your move. Silence, tense and crackling, like the eye of a storm. Daniel's jaw twitched. His eyes flicked down to the photos, then back up to Aiden's. Finally, he sneered. He grabbed his coat and turned. Enjoy your little crusade, he muttered, brushing past. It won't last. The door slammed behind him, leaving Aiden standing in a stunned silence. He exhaled, the adrenaline still pumping through him. Then he bent down and gathered the scattered papers. It had been a gamble, showing his hand, making an enemy. But it was worth it. Daniel knew he was exposed now, and that gave Olivia a fighting chance. Aiden left the lounge, his stride picking up speed as he returned to the ICU. The folder under his arm felt heavier now, not with burden but with purpose. The storm that had battered the city days ago was gone. Sunlight now streamed through the hospital windows. He entered Olivia's room. She lay still, eyes closed, breathing steady beneath the whisper of the ventilator. Aiden pulled the chair close, placing the folder on his lap. He leaned in, voice low but ironclad. I won't let them hurt you anymore, he said. His hand brushed hers. She didn't move, but he felt her presence, still fragile, still fierce, and it fueled him. Daniel might come back swinging, but Aiden was ready. This was war now, and he'd win it, for her. The ICU felt different now, less like a prison, more like a sanctuary. The sterile walls were softened by golden sunlight pouring through the blinds. Olivia Guyan's bed was now slightly elevated. The ventilator was gone, replaced by a nasal cannula, gently feeding her lungs. She'd been awake for a week. Her recovery was slow, deliberate, but steady. Climbing back from the edge of silence, Aiden stood by her bedside, clipboard in hand. But his eyes weren't on the numbers. They were on her. Her dark eyes, once clouded, now glinted with quiet clarity. Her voice, faint and raspy, had begun to return. Water, she croaked, throat raw. Aiden quickly set the clipboard down. He lifted a paper cup, guiding the straw to her lips. She sipped, winced, then nodded in thanks. He smiled, small but genuine. You're getting stronger, he said, settling into the chair. Few more days and you'll be bossing me around. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. Already am, she managed. Each word came like a struggle, but she spoke them anyway. Aiden chuckled, the sound loosening the air in the room. She'd started speaking 2 days ago. At first, it was just fragments, single syllables between dry coughs. Now, full sentences. Every word felt like a small miracle. Aiden had kept her recovery quiet. He gave vague updates to the staff, stable vitals and no change, all while shielding her from prying eyes. Daniel's threat still lingered, but Aiden pushed that aside. For now, all that mattered was Olivia. She needed him, not just as her doctor, as something more. He pulled out a small towel, gently dabbing her forehead. Her skin was cool and clammy, evidence of the exhausting work of waking. Tell me, she rasped suddenly, Her eyes locked onto his. "Why you?" Aiden paused, the towel frozen in midair. "Why me?" he echoed. "Why fight for me?" she asked. He set the towel down, leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Because you're worth it," he said simply. "Someone tried to erase you, Olivia. I couldn't let them win." Her eyes shimmered. Something unguarded passed through them, raw and sharp. She turned her head slowly, staring at the ceiling. Her breath hitched. "No one ever—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "My life. Empty. Family. Liars. I didn't want to wake up." Aiden felt it then, that this wasn't just a coma induced by drugs. It had been surrender. "What changed?" he asked softly. She looked back at him. Her gaze, though weak, cut straight through. "You." The words settled between them. Quiet, unshakable. He didn't look away. Couldn't. He had been her anchor. Now she was reaching back. Days blurred into a rhythm of healing. Aiden helped her through physical therapy. His hands steadied her trembling arms as she clutched the parallel bars. Her first steps were fragile. Her legs, too weak from months of stillness, threatened to fold. But every time she faltered, he caught her. His voice was always there. "One more. You've got this." Sweat beaded on her brow, and he'd beam when she made it, pride lighting his tired eyes. In the evenings, Aiden stayed late, long after his shift had ended. The nurses stopped questioning it, leaving them alone in the dim quiet of her room. He'd bring a deck of cards or a worn paperback, anything to keep her mind sharp. But mostly they talked. He told her about growing up in Queens, the scholarship that got him through med school, the time he crashed his bike into a dumpster and limped away laughing. She listened, her raspy chuckles growing stronger with each day. And slowly, she opened up too. "My father controlled everything," she said one night. Her voice was clearer now, though still rough. "Mother died young. Daniel. He was jealous. Wanted it all. I built the company alone. No one cared." Aiden leaned in, his hand resting near hers on the bed. "I care," he said, quiet but firm. "You're not alone anymore." Her eyes softened. A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away, embarrassed. But he caught her hand, gently holding it until she relaxed. Their talks deepened, weaving a thread between them. His stubborn hope, her buried strength. Sometimes he'd catch her watching him with a look he couldn't name, and his pulse would quicken without permission. One evening, the room glowed with the amber hush of dusk. The city hummed outside, a distant lullaby. Aiden sat cross-legged in the chair, recounting a disastrous attempt at cooking for his med school roommates. Olivia laughed, a real, throaty sound, and he grinned, savoring it. She shifted slightly, wincing as she adjusted herself, and he moved to help, propping her pillows. "You're good at this," she said, voice steady but soft. "At what? Bad cooking stories?" he teased. "No." She paused, her eyes locking on his. "Making me feel alive." Aiden stilled. His hands lingered on the pillow, frozen. The air thickened, charged with something unsaid. She reached out, fingers brushing his, tentative, deliberate. "You're the reason I wanted to live again," she rasped, her voice breaking. His heart slammed against his ribs, a rush of warmth surging through him. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, caught in the raw honesty of her words. She had bared herself, and he felt it, the pull, the ache he'd tried to bury. He didn't pull away. Instead, he slid his hand over hers, lacing their fingers together, his thumb tracing slow circles on her knuckles. "Olivia," he began, but the words failed him. She leaned forward just a fraction, and he met her halfway. In a quiet, tender surge, he pulled her into his arms, careful of her fragility, but firm in his hold. She melted into him, her head resting on his shoulder, her breath warm against his neck. He buried his face in her hair, the scent of hospital soap mingling with something purely, unmistakably her. They stayed like that, wrapped in silence, the world fading to nothing but the rhythm of their hearts. It was no longer doctor and patient, not protector and protected. It was them, together, and it was love. The courthouse steps gleamed beneath the harsh glare of camera flashes. Reporters buzzed like flies as Olivia Nuon descended, her stride steady despite the cane in her hand. 3 weeks out of the ICU, she was a shadow of her former self, thinner, paler, but her eyes burned with a fire Aiden had come to know well. He walked beside her, jaw set, the manila folder of evidence now in their attorney Rachel Kim's hands, a weapon with legal teeth. Today they would take Daniel down, brick by brick. Inside, the courtroom was a battlefield of polished wood and whispered tension. Olivia sat at the plaintiff's table, her dark suit crisp, her gaze locked on her brother across the aisle. Daniel lounged in his chair, smirking. His lawyer, a sleek wall of smug confidence, sat beside him. Aiden took his seat behind Olivia, every muscle taut. Rachel rose. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade as she laid out the charges. Attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy. Security footage played. Daniel's shadowed figure clearly seen passing the vial. Then came Jenny's recorded confession. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. Daniel's smirk faltered. His lawyer scrambled to object. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Rachel called Olivia to the stand. She stood slowly, cane tapping against the hardwood. Her testimony was raw. 6 months lost, her brother's betrayal, the drugs that chained her to silence. The room hung on every word. Aiden's chest swelled with pride. When she finished, Daniel's lawyer tried to spin it. Stress, misunderstanding, miscommunication. But the judge didn't buy it. The gavel cracked. "Recess until tomorrow," she declared. Daniel's glare shot toward Aiden, venomous. Outside, chaos erupted, cameras, shouting. Aiden shielded Olivia from the swarm, guiding her to the waiting car, but he felt it, Daniel's eyes still on them. They'd won the day, but it wasn't over. That night, Rachel called. The prosecution was pushing for jail time. Olivia smiled, a rare, fierce thing. "He's finished," she said. Aiden nodded, and this time he believed it. The next morning, court resumed. The verdict came fast. Guilty. Cuffs snapped onto Daniel's wrists, his face twisted with rage. His threats were drowned in the courtroom murmur. Olivia exhaled, leaning into Aiden. Her relief was a living thing. But as they stepped out of the courthouse, the air shifted. Too quiet, too still, too still. Aiden's instincts flared. He pulled Olivia closer, eyes scanning the crowd. And then he saw it, a hulking figure in a hoodie, barreling through the reporters straight for them. "Olivia, down!" Aiden shouted, shoving her behind him. The thug swung a fist. Aiden ducked, adrenaline surging. The man lunged again, a glint of metal in his hand. A knife. Aiden threw himself forward, tackling the attacker. Pain seared his arm as the blade grazed him, but he grunted, pinning the thug's wrist down. Security swarmed in, yanking the man off him. "Aiden!" Olivia's scream cut through the chaos. Her hands reached for him as he staggered back, blood soaking his sleeve. "I'm fine," he said through gritted teeth, trying to grin. "Just a scratch." But she wasn't listening. Her fingers trembled as she pressed her scarf to the wound, her face pale with fear. The crowd parted. Paramedics rushed in. Within minutes, they were in an ambulance. Olivia refused to leave his side. Hours later, the story broke on national TV. Olivia sat in a studio, her cane resting against the chair. Her voice was steady, her gaze unflinching as she faced the cameras. "My brother tried to kill me," she said. "He drugged me, stole my company, sent someone to finish the job today. But I'm still here, because of one man, Dr. Aiden Lee. He saved my life, and I'm taking back what's mine." The anchor nodded, visibly stunned, as Olivia laid it all bare, Her recovery, Daniel's betrayal, Aiden's courage. By morning, the board of her company had reinstated her. Public support surged. That night, Aiden lay in a hospital bed at St. Augustine's, his arm wrapped in gauze, a dull ache pulsing beneath it. The door creaked open. Olivia slipped in, the blazer replaced with a soft sweater, her hair loose. She carried a tray, water, a cloth, a small first aid kit. "Your turn," she said gently, setting it down beside him. He raised an eyebrow. "I'm the patient now?" "Exactly." She sat next to him, dipping the cloth in water and carefully wiping the sweat from his brow. Her touch was reverent, mirroring the way he'd cared for her weeks ago. "You scared me today," she murmured. Her eyes met his, glossy, glistening. "I can't lose you." Aiden caught her hand, pressed it against his cheek. "You won't," he said, voice rough with emotion. "I'd take 100 hits for you." She leaned in, resting her forehead against his. Her breath was warm on his skin. The room faded away. She was tending his wound. He was shielding her heart. Roles reversed. Bond unbreakable. 3 months later, the penthouse gleamed. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Manhattan skyline, sharp, glittering, endless. Olivia Guan stood at the edge, her silhouette sharp in a tailored blazer, her strength back in every step. Aiden leaned against the kitchen counter, beer in hand, watching her with a quiet ache. She had reclaimed everything, her company, her name, her legacy. But the headlines had changed, not in their favor. Millionaire Titan, slumming it with Dr. Boyfriend. Is Olivia Guan buying loyalty? Photos of them outside the hospital, grabbing coffee, her in couture, him in scrubs. The captions dripped with poison. She was the powerhouse, he was the footnote, and the world couldn't stop talking about it. Aiden scrolled through his phone, the comments cutting deeper than he wanted to admit. She's just using him for the story. He's in over his head. The doubt crept in, slow, poisonous. Behind him, Olivia turned. "You're quiet tonight," she said, crossing the room. Her voice smooth, but probing. She'd ditched the cane weeks ago. Her stride was strong again, but her eyes, when they landed on him, softened. He set the beer down, forcing a smile. "Just tired. Long shift." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth. She sat beside him on the couch, her knee brushing his. "Aiden, talk to me." He exhaled, ran a hand through his hair. "It's nothing, just the noise out there. What people are saying." He hesitated, met her eyes. "They think you're slumming it, that I'm some charity case you're propping up." Her brow furrowed, anger flashing in her gaze. "They're idiots. You know that." "Do I?" The words came out sharper than he meant. "Olivia, you're a billionaire genius. The world's at your feet. I'm just a guy with a stethoscope and a rent-controlled apartment. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't fit." She stared at him, stunned. Then she leaned in, voice low and urgent. "You think I care about that? After everything?" He looked away, his throat tightening. "I care. I don't want to drag you down. You deserve someone who matches you, not some tabloid punchline." The words tumbled out, raw, jagged. He stood, pacing. "Maybe we should step back. Let you breathe." Olivia's eyes widened, then hardened. She rose, grabbed his arm. "No!" Her voice cut through his spiral like a blade. "You don't get to decide that for me. Olivia, listen. I was dead inside before you." Her voice snapped like a wire pulled too tight. "Not the coma, before that. Alone. Betrayed. Number you gave me my life back. And now you want to walk away because some hacks with keyboards think you're not enough?" Her voice broke, fierce and pleading. "You're everything." Aiden's breath caught. Her words sank in. But the doubt lingered. A stubborn shadow passed across Aiden's face. Olivia saw it, and her jaw set. "Fine," she said, stepping back. "You want proof? Watch this." The next day, she called a press conference. Aiden stood backstage, arms crossed, as Olivia faced a sea of microphones in a sleek downtown studio. The room buzzed, reporters, cameras, whispers, drawn by the weight of her name. She wore a simple black dress, understated, commanding, and when she spoke, the room went still. "There's been talk about my life," she began, her voice clear and steady. "About Aiden Lee." She paused, eyes scanning the crowd, until they landed on his. "Let me set the record straight. He's not my doctor boyfriend. He's not a prop or a headline. He saved me. Not with money, but with his heart. He fought for me when no one else did. Risked everything. Pulled me out of hell. I'm here because of him, and I love him for it." She held his gaze, unblinking. "So write what you want. We're not going anywhere." The room exploded. Shouts, flashes, gasps. But Aiden barely heard a thing. Her words hit him like a tidal wave, drowning out every doubt. She stepped off the stage, ignoring the chaos, and walked straight to him. Her eyes were steady, unapologetic. "Believe me now?" she asked, voice soft, a challenge in her smile. He pulled her close, arms wrapping around her, the noise fading to nothing. "Yeah," he murmured into her hair, voice thick. "I do." She pressed against him, hands warm on his chest, and he felt the shift. Doubt gone, certainty blooming, love louder than the critics. They left the studio hand in hand, the city's roar a distant hum. The backlash would fade, the gossip would tire. But they wouldn't. They had chosen each other, and nothing could break them now. 1 year later, spring hung in the air, blossoming trees, the scent of fresh earth. Aiden Lee stood under a simple wooden arch in a Brooklyn park, hands clasped nervously, a soft breeze fogging his glasses. He wore a plain gray suit. No tie. Across the grass, Olivia Guan walked slowly, deliberately, down an aisle of wildflowers. Her white dress flowed in the breeze, unpretentious, free. She was glowing. 33, dark hair loose, no trace of the battles behind her. Just a woman in love. The ceremony was small. 20 guests, mostly Aiden's med school friends and a few loyal staff from St. Augustine's. No cameras, no spectacle, just vows spoken beneath rustling leaves. Aiden's voice caught as he promised to stand by her through storms and silence. Olivia's vow came steady, to build a life, not of wealth, but of us. Their kiss was quiet, the applause soft, a hard-won love, finally at peace. They didn't fly off to a lavish honeymoon. Olivia had other plans. 2 weeks later, she sat in her penthouse office, signing papers that dissolved most of her fortune. Billions funneled into education, health care, women's shelters. The tabloids called it madness. She called it freedom. She kept enough to live, but the empire she built would no longer cage her. Aiden stood behind her, hand on her shoulder as she signed the final document. "You sure about this?" he asked, half teasing. She looked up, grinning. "Never been surer." They moved into a modest brownstone in Queens, trading steel and glass for a patchy backyard and quiet mornings. Their real work began a month later. They cut the ribbon on the Nan Lee Clinic, a squat brick building in an underserved corner of the borough. It had been Aiden's dream for years, a place where anyone could walk in. No insurance, no paperwork, just care. Olivia made it real. Her business fire turned his vision into walls and stethoscopes. She handled the books. He handled the patients. Together, they turned a forgotten street into a lifeline. The clinic buzzed daily. Kids with colds, elders with aches, families who'd never seen a doctor. Aiden wore hoodies instead of white coats, his laugh echoing as he patched knees and listened to lungs. Olivia worked the front, charming donors, booking appointments, bending her boardroom steel toward kindness. At night, they stayed late side by side, sharing takeout, solving problems, moving as one. One evening, as summer faded into fall, they stepped out onto the clinic's small porch. The sky blazed orange and pink. The sun dipped behind the rooftops. Aiden leaned against the railing, a cup of cooling coffee in hand. Olivia stood beside him, scarf loose around her neck, her hair catching the last light. The city hummed faintly. Cars, voices, life. But here, it was just them. "Worth it?" he asked, glancing at her, voice low. She turned, eyes meeting his. Warm. Certain. Every second, she slid her hand into his, their fingers laced, his calloused from work, hers softer, steady. "We did this together." He squeezed her hand, a slow smile spreading. "Yeah," he said. "We did." They stood there as the sky deepened into dusk. The clinic behind them wasn't just a building, it was a promise, a testament to everything they'd fought for. No coma, no betrayal, no gossip could touch them now. They had shed the weight of wealth and doubt, built something real, something theirs. The horizon stretched wide, endless. As the last light faded, Aiden pulled her close, her head resting against his chest. Love had carried them here, past every obstacle, and it would carry them forward, unbroken, into whatever came next. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving a soft glow over the Nan Lee Clinic's porch, where Aiden and Olivia stood, hands still entwined. The world they'd built wasn't just a place, it was a heartbeat, a testament to love's quiet power over chaos and greed. From a stormy night in the ICU to this golden dusk, their journey had woven a tale of courage, trust, and a bond no force could shatter. As stars began to prick the sky, they turned back inside, ready for tomorrow's patience. Their love a light that would never fade. If Aiden and Olivia's story moved you, how a young doctor's defiance sparked a miracle, how a billionaire found her soul again in his care, then don't miss out on more tales like this. Subscribe to the Soul Stirring Stories channel, where every story pulls at your heartstrings and leaves you believing in the extraordinary. Hit that subscribe button now and join us for the next unforgettable journey.